All right, so if you missed the news yesterday, or was it the day before? I don't know. The days all blur together in my head, quite frankly, this time of year and most of the year. I rarely know what day of the week it is. That is 100% accurate. You can call me on Wednesday morning, and I don't know what day. I'm either working that day or I'm golfing. Those are the only days that click in my head. Work day, golf day, or sometimes it's both. Anyway, so the House v. NCAA settlement came down. Judge Claudia Wilkin ruled that the NCAA has to pay a bunch of back payments to athletes that should have gotten money over the years but weren't allowed to because of the amateurism rule enforced by the NCAA, which the courts have routinely said, yeah, this is illegal. You can't do that. And so that's all going away. That opened the door for NIL. Now, the House settlement allows athletic departments this year, this upcoming school year, 2025-2026, rosters will get cut down and athletes will be paid $20.5 million spread across the department. Now, how it gets spread across the department depends on the school. Some might go for, a 75% to football, 15 men's basketball, 5 women's basketball, and 5% everywhere else. Some might go directly proportional to the revenue generated by each sport in relation to how much money the athletic department wants to give to its athletes. Either way, that I suspect, since it just got issued by the judge, though it hasn't directly been challenged on Title IX grounds, I bet you there will be a Title IX question in there. Because certainly that will not be an equitable distribution of funds between men's and women's sports, because football makes most of the revenue. Does that mean the money should automatically go straight to football? That argument can certainly be made. So I'm waiting to see that. I don't have as big of a question there. I think having a salary cap overall, if I take off my Oregon hat for a moment, it is good for the sport of college football. To make things closer to a level playing field, it will never be perfectly level. It will not. College sports will never get to that particular point. And I don't think that it should, because schools that are able to raise more money and are willing to spend that money should be rewarded. What you don't want to have is a situation like you have in Major League Baseball, where all the teams are in the same league, sure, but the Dodgers' payroll is over $300 million a year, and there are teams that are not even paying $100 million a year for their roster. Moneyball is a great movie, but it doesn't represent a viable long-term successful plan to operate a league where money is changing hands like that. The NFL is a much better situation where there is a salary cap and you can spend into the luxury tax to go, over that cap. I don't know exactly how all the rules work, but you can do that, but it is much, much closer from one school to the next than it is in college sports or in Major League Baseball. So, and the NBA, I think, has the luxury tax as well. But the interesting thing that I think for Oregon could be more of a downside than an upside, but again, for college football is good, is the NIL collective angle. So any NIL deal, there's going to be a new college sports commission, and they're calling this NIL Go, where Deloitte, one of the big four accounting firms, has been contracted to evaluate all deals between student athletes and third-party NIL collectives, not payments that are coming from the athletic department, which are now legal via the House v. NCAA settlement, but Division Street, Oregon's NIL collective, would not be able to just go out and say, we're going to pay whatever we want for, let's just say hypothetically, I'm speaking purely hypothetically, I'm not reporting anything, but let's say Derek Harmon cost $1 million last year. That's obviously well over $600. And so if Oregon's NIL collective, which won't go away, but it'll just have to go through this review process, if they want to go and say, we're going to pay Derek Harmon $1 million to come play for Oregon this year, Deloitte might come back and say, no, that we don't deem that to be fair market value. You can't give him that much money. And so the idea behind that is to cut down on the number of pay-for-play opportunities and or to eliminate them. And I don't know that you can ever get to that particular point, but the idea again is to close the gap between the haves and the have-nots. And Oregon has certainly been a have in the NIL and portal world. And so if that holds up legally, that's a big time game changer for roster construction, because now, the bidding wars that people hate so much are going to exist, but at a smaller level. Because Deloitte will be able to say, yeah, okay, you're offering to pay $3 million for a corner. Yeah, a corner is not worth $3 million. How they're getting that valuation, I'm not entirely sure. But for any prospects out there Oregon's gotten because they had more NIL, now they're going to have to go make a more holistic pitch. Now, do I think that Oregon has been exclusively recruiting well because of NIL? Absolutely, positively not. No. And one thing that I have said repeatedly is that across all the changes to the landscape of college athletics, Oregon has adapted correctly and thrived. That has continuously been true. When it was, how do you get Oregon on the national stage? Let's wear fancy uniforms, and everybody's talking about, yeah, that worked pretty well. Then there was a facilities race, and Oregon was right there. And Oregon continued with the uniform game. And NIL came about, and Oregon was ready to be a Tier 1 school. And the portal came about, and Oregon crushes it. And Oregon needed to up their recruiting, and they did that. All these changes over the years. Oregon has continuously adapted and succeeded. So while you can certainly make the argument that top-tier NIL schools like Oregon, Ohio State, SMU has an incredibly well-funded collective, USC has been falling into this category recently. While you can certainly argue that those schools are going to have to do things differently, it doesn't mean they aren't still the best position to succeed. It just means the high-end amount of dollars, again, if it holds up in court, because the courts have consistently said, yeah, you can't cap the earning potential of the student athletes just because they're playing under the banner of NCAA athletics. They are adults, and you can't do this in any other field. Why are you able to do it here? So that case still has to be made in order to limit what the NIL collectives can do. But the attempt to get rid of pay for play and to get rid of, boosters having so much influence over the construction of college rosters could very well be on its way. It is here. Like any NIL deal struck starting now, even though NIL Go doesn't officially launch until Wednesday, June 11th, that deal that would be struck between now and that, like, let's say Dante Moore wanted to renegotiate his NIL deal right now with Division Street for whatever reason. That now has to go through NIL Go and Deloitte for their review to say, no, you can't give him that much money. But I think deals that have already been put in place get to stay grandfathered in, which is why there were so many deals that were pushed to get they were pushing to get through. By they, I mean everybody in college athletics behind the scenes. They were trying to get him through because they knew this was coming down, and suddenly there were going to be restrictions. So, is it great for Oregon? Not necessarily, because the NIL was a way for them to create an advantage over certain other schools. However, as I've stated repeatedly, Oregon is not solely an NIL recruiter. They do not have unlimited NIL, and whatever situation college sports wants to be in, Oregon's going to succeed. They didn't get Jackson Cantwell. You know why? Because Miami had a bigger NIL offer. Well, guess what? That NIL offer might not now be allowed to get up to $2.5 million for a kid who hasn't taken a snap of college football yet beyond high school. They might say, yeah, you can offer like $200,000, but you can't go to $2.5 million or anything like that. But wherever the limits are, Oregon's going to be able to reach them. So my recruiting expectations don't change at all. But again, with the NIL collective factor, wait and see if that holds up in court, because I have serious questions about whether it will. But I thought about becoming a lawyer. I, of course, didn't. I'm doing this instead. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and go Ducks.